Hello and welcome to a LOTRO top 5 video with me, Balthelion. In this series, I come up with my personal top 5 in a given category and give my reasons for what makes them my best picks. Keep in mind that my picks are my own opinion, but where possible I will back up my opinions with facts for why I think my top 5 are the top 5. Today's topic is the top 5 regions in the game. Note that at the time of writing this episode, we're up to the northern Mirkwood region in the game, which is a level 115 region. My choices in this category are influenced by a number of factors, such as the value of each region in terms of the questing and instances that it offers, the replayability of each region, how enjoyable it is, and the fun and nostalgia I've had with each region over the years that some of them have been released. Although I myself am a subscriber, I've taken into consideration the value of each region to non-subscriber players who will need to buy each quest pack as they go through the game. So with those rules established, let's take a look at my top 5. Starting us off at number 5 is Angmar. I didn't start playing the game until the Moria expansion was released, so I didn't get to experience this region when it was the original endgame region. That being said, I still have so many fun memories of running the Angmar instances back in the day, whether it was being silly in Evandim or having to run the gauntlet to the camp outside the Rift of Ner'zgashu, past all the lethal landscape mobs that would one-shot you, before the instance finder had actually been invented for the game. Angmar includes 4 instances by default. There are 3 6-man instances, which are Kandum, Urugarth and Barad Gularan, plus a 12-man raid, which is the Rift of Ner'zgashu. These instances are all for the level 48 to 50 level range, and currently do not scale to the level cap. There is also a separate instance, the Halls of Night, which although physically located inside of Angmar, was released at a much later date as a separate standalone purchase after the arrival of free-to-play in the game. This instance does, however, scale to the level cap. In terms of questing, Angmar offers a large variety of quests, including a lot of fellowship quests. This can be a little off-putting to some players who prefer to quest alone, leading them to prefer alternative regions for this level range to level in, such as Forakel. That being said, many quests which are listed as small fellowship and even some labelled as full fellowship can be completed on level by a solo player. Just remember to pull sensibly and use caution. The region itself is unlocked for the price of 795 LOTRO points, which is very reasonable in terms of the content offered, especially once the instances are taken into consideration. Kandum alone is a huge chunk of content. It is also available to VIP subscribers for free when they maintain their paid subscription to the game. At number 4 is Evandim. This region got a major revamp in the early days of free-to-play, which made the quest flow of the region even better, while also adding more quests and value to the region. Evandim includes 3 instances, all of which are 6-mans. These are Glingant, Horde Valandil and Ost Elendil. These are all scaling instances, which scale from level 40 up to the level cap. Evandim offers a nice variety of quests, the majority of which can be soloed. A few landscape quests may prove difficult for inexperienced players, however, but otherwise this is still an exceptionally good region for the average solo player. Players who are not VIP subscribers will need a new region to quest in once the free regions end at around level 30. Evandim is by far the best option for your first quest pack. It offers plenty of quests that are suitable for the level 28 to 42 level range, though some of the last quests within the city of Animinus may prove difficult for some solo players. The region is unlocked for the price of 595 LOTRO points, which is an absolute bargain for such a rich region in terms of questing, which also gives you 3 scaling instances to play with. Players who are not subscribers should definitely purchase this quest pack once they finish the free region quests. At number 3 is Breland. This region serves as the starting region for men and Bjornings, although any race can use it as a starter region once they have completed their introduction areas. If you use the Shire or Ered Luin as your starter region, you will be sent to Breland at around level 15 to continue your journey with the second half of Breland anyway. I have a lot of nostalgia for the region, and all of my characters have used it as their starter region, regardless of race, except for one-offs through the Shire and Ered Luin. The region might not be as flashy as other later regions of the game, but it did receive an overhaul with the launch of free-to-play, and again later in the Rohan era with the so-called revamp. What I love about Breland is the sheer volume of quests that exist for the opening levels. This means that each character you bring through the region is capable of mixing and matching different quest hubs to have a tailored levelling experience through the region, as there are way more quests than you will ever actually need. There is also a large variety of deeds which reward exploration as well, many of which tie into the lore and history of the region that give the land a real sense of history. Another thing I like about Breland is that there are so many hidden places out of the way that very few players will have visited them all on their travels. Can you yourself say you've ever been to the Brandy Hills, Brandywood, Eastern Breefields, Far Chetwood, Nenharn, the Weather Hills or the Midgewater Pass? If not, go exploring the next time you're looking for something to do in game. Just be careful because you might come across some dangerous threats for low level characters. Breetown itself also feels much more alive since the revamp that came along with Rohan. I bet you probably haven't stopped to appreciate all the things that the NPCs are doing in town, whether it's the guards patrolling with their hounds, or people having conversations through an upstairs window. My top two were a very close call, but ultimately at number 2 it had to be East Rohan. While I thematically consider East and West Rohan to be part of one greater whole, and despite several key locations such as Edoras, Helm's Deep and the now drowned Isengard being in West Rohan, for me East Rohan is more iconic in game. It does still give us iconic locales such as the Argonath, the Falls of Rauros and the Lawns of Parthgalen, where we get to see the sundering of the Fellowship as they head their separate ways, taking us firmly into the Two Towers storyline. The magnificence of this region is helped in no small part by the tremendous work of Chance Thomas and his amazing soundtrack for East Rohan, recorded with an orchestra and a choir. This is easily the pinnacle of LOTRO's soundtrack thus far, and really made Rohan in game come alive. This ultimately made West Rohan feel a bit of a letdown when the soundtrack for that expansion was done in-house, although later some of Chance Thomas's music from East Rohan was allowed to be played in-game in West Rohan to make for a more unified soundscape. There is no denying that mounted combat is a little bit clunky, even now years after it was introduced, but being able to ride across the huge sweeping expanse of Rohan is still a sight to behold. The enhanced visuals that came with East Rohan made for a more beautiful game design in the regions which followed, and Edoras itself is a work of beauty. The questing in East Rohan sees you assisting not only its people, but the various major and minor lords of the land, as you become embroiled in the politics of the time, and Theoden's decree not to attack the forces of Isengard which are travelling through the region. There is an absolutely huge amount of questing in this region, with over 400 quests scattered around the 5 distinct areas of the map, which are almost regions in their own right. At the end of the region, you will also help to rebuild a destroyed town by assisting the 4 major cities of East Rohan with random daily quests in exchange for supplies, allowing you to rebuild the town piece by piece. This town also gradually changes appearance as you slowly rebuild it, until everything is new again and the citizens have returned. This is definitely worth doing, not only for the 3 unique armour sets available to each class from rebuilding the town, but also because there are a couple of final quests for the region which will pay off some loose ends of the storyline from earlier in the region once you have finished rebuilding the town. Although there were no instances which launched with East Rohan, its instance cluster did come a while later. This was the Road to Erebor cluster, which includes 3 3-man instances, Eorbar's Peak, Seat of the Great Goblin and Webs of the Scuttledells, 1 6-man instance, the Bells of Dow, and 3 12-man raids, Flight of the Lonely Mountain, the Fires of Smaug, and the Battle of Erebor. These all scale from level 20 up till the level cap. As you might have guessed, none of these instances actually take place inside of East Rohan, but they were instead timed to release with the Hobbit movies, since they retrace the footsteps of Bilbo Baggins some 80 years after his original journey to Erebor. As far as purchasing the region goes, there are 3 options available in the store. The Quest Pack and the Instance Cluster are both available as separate purchases for 1,495 Lotro points each, or you can get both together as the Riders of Rohan expansion for 2,495 LP, saving you around 500 points. I would say it's definitely worth the points for the quests, but the instance cluster is perhaps overpriced for what it is. Personally, if you don't mind paying a little money towards the game, I would recommend looking out for the expansion quad pack on the online LOTRO market website, which will give you the first 4 expansions of the game: Mines of Moria, Siege of Mirkwood, Rise of Isengard and Riders of Rohan. This tends to be on sale a couple times a year, and it's an absolute bargain when it is. If you can't or won't spend the money though, I'd definitely recommend at least getting the quest pack for LOTRO points, or better yet the full expansion for the complete experience. At number 1 on my list is Moria. As I mentioned earlier, it was a tough call as to which way round I placed my top 2, but in the end Moria just edges it. This was LOTRO's first expansion, and as it was worked on by much of the game's original launch team before the staff was downsized, it arguably set a bit of an unrealistic expectation for what to expect from future expansions. Although they did not all arrive at launch, Moria ultimately ended up with an incredible 7 6-man instances and 2 12-man raids. This was then supplemented with the instances which formed part of the Laurelin instance cluster, which was also physically located within Moria, which added 2 3-man instances, another 6-man instance and a 12-man raid. Coupled with a huge amount of questing and having to navigate your way around a very dark and dangerous map, this made for an incredible experience, as beforehand we had never had such an expansive interior region to explore before, let alone one so iconic within the Lord of the Rings story. I started playing LOTRO shortly after the Moria launch, so I have fond memories of Moria back from in the day when it was the endgame. Back then we had to grind to win a specific token from each of the 6 primary 6-man instances to complete our armour sets, rather than simply acquiring medallions of Moria to barter with. I still remember constantly having to run the Forges of Khazad-dûm over and over on my captain until he eventually won the role for his chest piece. Since then, Moria has been brightened up a fair bit and the mob density has been significantly reduced. While it might make it more appealing for newer players, I really enjoyed the dangerous nature of old Moria, as it was easy to get yourself into trouble with overpulling mobs or falling into a deep dark ravine. There are so many hidden areas tucked in the corners of Moria that can be explored, and a special shout out has to go to what is probably the game's smallest shard dropper mob, which now drops a mithril flake that is probably larger than its own body. Moria, like East Rohan, was also scored by Chance Thomas, with another orchestral and choir soundtrack. While I feel that the Rohan soundtrack is superior on the whole, the Moria one is no less iconic, and both the ambient and battle music gives me great feelings of nostalgia. Moria has 2 options for purchasing in the store. Firstly, as a quest pack, which includes the Mines of Moria instance cluster for 1,495 LOTRO points. For a huge region and no less than 9 instances, it's an absolute bargain at this price. Alternatively, you can buy the Moria expansion, which includes everything in the quest pack plus the following: 2 extra character slots, the Runekeeper premium class, the Warden premium class, and a Skirmish Soldier trade cap increase to level 15. This is priced at 2,495 LOTRO points, just 1,000 points more. The premium classes are worth 795 LOTRO points separately, character slots are worth 595 LOTRO points each, and the Skirmish rank increase is worth 195 LOTRO points. So by purchasing the bundle, you'll be saving yourself an incredible 1,995 points overall, making this very worthwhile even if you only need some and not all of the bonus features. Alternatively, as I mentioned with East Rohan, I would recommend looking out for the expansion quad pack on the online LOTRO market website, which will give you the first 4 expansions of the game: Mines of Moria, Siege of Mirkwood, Rise of Isengard and Riders of Rohan. This tends to be on sale a couple of times of a year, and it's an absolute bargain when it is. Since there are so many regions in the game these days, it's probably worth shouting out a few honourable mentions that didn't make the top 5 as well. Thorkel was admittedly a region that I wasn't too keen on at first, but it has grown on me over time. The snowy tundra and culture of its loss of people really adds a unique touch to the region that sets it apart from the rest of the game. It's a much more solo-friendly region than both Angmar and the Misty Mountains, which makes it a great choice for solo players looking to level in the 40 to 50 level range. However, the region is a little bit light on quests in the low 40s, and it contains no instances as part of the quest pack, which is why it didn't make my top 5. Laurelin was the last region released when I had just started the game, so it, along with Moria, holds a special place in my heart for being my original endgame. The Scenic Region, along with the fun of the elves actually one-shotting you if you dared to enter the Golden Wood before getting acquaintance reputation, made it a lot of fun back in the day. Especially when seeing people ask in chat why they'd suddenly just got one-shotted. Although Laurelin does come with its own instance cluster, the landscape quests are relatively minimal, and many of them are in fact daily repeatables. This means that these days, Laurelin is very easily skipped over, and for that reason it didn't make my top 5. Mirkwood got a lot of hate at the time of its release, because the expansion was compared to the Mines of Moria expansion, despite having a much smaller development team, and therefore fewer instances and only 5 additional levels of content. However, realistically it was probably LOTRO's best point in history in terms of endgame content. The only 5 level increase meant that the Moria instances were still reasonably challenging, plus now you had the Mirkwood instance cluster, and then later the In Their Absence instance cluster to play through, meaning that you had an embarrassment of riches when it came to the number of endgame instances available. So that's it for my top 5. Do you agree with my list, or does your top 5 look completely different to mine? I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. These top 5 videos do take a bit longer to prepare for, so if you'd like to see more of them, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like the video, comment or subscribe. I already have a number of topics I'd like to cover in future videos, but I'm happy to take suggestions you guys may have as well, so let me know in the comments. That's it for now though, so until next time, see you guys later.